Down in the Valley, a classic American folk tune played on a classic American instrument, the mountain dulcimer. Welcome everybody to Dulcimerica. My name is Futch. Thank you very much for joining me. We're continuing our study for novice and beginner players of the mountain dulcimer here in the month of November 2019. And today we're going to be focusing on another time signature. We've been playing in 4/4 time or common time all month long. With this episode, we are going to be moving into the waltz category and 3/4 time. So you can download today's music from the link right down below here on Patreon. And while we're doing that, I want to say hello to Dan Collier, one of my patrons. Dan, thank you very, very much for subscribing and being a part of my art every single day, like all of my patrons, and I'm very grateful to them. I'm very grateful to you guys for making all of this happen. Dulcimerica is going into its 13th season, and I simply would not be able to pull it off without the assistance of my patrons. And they also make so many other things possible. So if you want to find out more about this whole Patreon thing, you can go to this link, pick up your resources for today's episode, and then just bookmark the page and make sure you go on back to the featured tag section. There, the open house tag will give you all kinds of free downloads and give you a taste of what's available there. If you're interested in joining then, please do consider it. $5 a month is all it takes to give you all access pass to everything I've ever produced. All my books, CDs, videos, and tablature, and everything I'm producing every single week. All the new stuff, all the music that comes out from the studio. So if you're interested, consider it, and you'll be, just like Dan and all the rest of my patrons, part of my art and very much loved and thought about every single morning as I create new exclusive content for you. Dan and everybody else, thank you very, very much. So we're continuing our look at 155 tuning, DAA. It's a traditional dulcimer tuning, and we don't use it a whole bunch because people really, really like 158 DAD tuning, CGC tuning. But I like the voicing, the way the chords sound when you're playing in DAA. Rich textures, and I think, honestly, that some of the chord shapes are easier to play than the ones in DAD. So if you haven't played in DAA, this might be your first time experiencing it, and we will be moving on to DAD in December. But I wanted to focus on this as an entry-level way of experimenting with different tunings and also with different time signatures. Now, we have been working in 4/4 time all the month, but now we're going into waltz land and playing 3/4 time. So 3/4 time, that top number once again is what gets the, how many beats are in the measure. Bottom number is what gets the beat. So in 3/4 time, we have 3 beats per measure. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Great for waltz dancing. And that bottom number is what gets the beat. 4 stands for the quarter note, so the quarter note gets the beat. Now, this is a very, very easy tune, Down in the Valley. And once again, we're just playing it on the melody string by itself. And we talked about different note values and what we can do to extend notes by using ties and using dots. You can see we're using both of them here if you've downloaded the music. I'm also putting this up on the website or up on the screen so you can see what's going on if you are not able to download the music. So we start off with 3 quarter notes, and then we go into a dotted half note. Remember, a dot adds half of the value of the note to itself. A half note normally gets 2 beats, and half of the value would be a beat. So a dotted half note gets 3 beats total. And why don't they just use a whole note, which indicates that it gets everything in the measure? I don't know. Maybe to stay true to the fact that 3 beats would look like a dotted half note, even in 4/4 time. So take a look in measure number 3. There you see we've got some ties. And keep looking throughout this piece, this short piece, and you'll see we have a lot of ties. And we'll talk about how to handle that, because sometimes that can really slow down the groove of your tune or take it away completely. We'll talk about that in the second half of the episode. We also have some navigation. We have a first and second ending. Starting off with the first measure, there you can see we've got a black bar, real dark measure indicator, and 2 dots. That's the beginning of our repeat section. So we look through until we find the end of that repeat section, and we find that down in measure number 16. But somewhere along the way, in measure 10, we have developed this thing, a first ending. A first ending is like a gate you can only go into one time per song. So we go ahead and we pass through that gate with no problem. We get to the end of our repeat section and then go back to the beginning. But the second time through, we play right on up to the doorstep of that first ending. Measure 9, we play it all as written. But then we skip from the end of that measure to the beginning of measure number 17, and that is where the second ending takes place. So be looking for the first and second ending as we maneuver through the piece. Take a note of where that's located so that you don't get lost in moving through it. And let's go ahead and play. Now I'm going to count for each measure we're going through, and then I'll show you how to put some fill-in rhythms to keep this thing moving along. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, repeat. 2, 3. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Second ending. 2, 3. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and out. All right, good. So, as you can tell, counting through that and just using one strum per melody note gives us the melody, and then everything just comes to a dead halt. Anytime we hang out with a note for longer than 2 beats, that melody note is sustaining. Sometimes it's a short sustain and then the action picks up very quickly. And other times like this, it's a very long sustain. And so we need to do something in the background to keep things moving. Otherwise, no one's gonna dance to your groove. So what I like to do is use selective strumming. The melody we don't want to mess with at all. We don't want to chop through the melody as we're adding elements to it of rhythm. So I focus my strumming on the bass string and on the middle string like this. Instead of all the way across the strings. Let me get a note in here. Let me get this obvious note right here, this C note here, or this G note here. So if I hit all 3 strings all the way across, strumming evenly across the strings, you're going to hear that G hanging out there on the melody string. But if I angle my pick a bit downwards and play into the bass and the middle string, even though I'm still fretting at the 6th fret on the melody string, you're not hearing that note, I'm avoiding it. And I can come over and hit it if I want to bring it into the picture. And that control is going to help you keep things nice and clean and not chop up the melody when you're playing that. Otherwise, you'll get stuff like this. And that's a little too busy for the melody. It just steals some of that nice smooth sound away. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be doing my strum, which basically is a 1, da, 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 2. So if I'm a 1, 2, and 3, and it's a bit of a shuffle I'm using. Remember that from our last episode? 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and... That's a real nice rhythm for doing waltzes. 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and... So I can either strum all the way across the strings, and you'll hear that melody note getting hit every single time I do that, or I can use selective strumming and let that melody stay nice and pure and still keep the rhythm going in the background. Here's strumming across all the strings. Now here's with selective strumming. So you see how that cleans things up real nicely? It lets that melody do what the melody does, and when the melody kind of chills out for a bit, the rhythm is still there, inviting people to the dance floor to dance to your music. So that is something you can do with any piece of music that you work with, is just remember to isolate the melody from the background by using selective strumming, and you can practice that just by putting your thumb on anywhere on the melody string, strumming across all the strings, and then trying to take the sound of the melody string out of the picture. And once you have that control, it's never going to leave you, and you'll be able to really put some dynamism into your music and clean up your arrangements a whole bunch. So I hope that is helpful stuff to you, dealing with not only the 3/4 time signature, but what to do when you are greeted by a melody that's not doing a whole lot and you need to fill in that time to create a nice arrangement for whatever it is that you're working on. 2 concepts put together as we continue our look at 155 tuning in the key of D, D-A-A, right here in the month of November on Dulcimerica. So play a little bit every day, you guys. And once again, if you have not picked up the resources for this episode, you can go down to this link below and also check out the open house at Patreon. And if you'd like to join up, it's just $5 a month. It gets you everything I've ever produced and everything that I'm producing every single week. Again, to all my patrons, thank you guys. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week right here.